they've actually turned around and become profitable. I mean, this was just one of those ZERP businesses. Like their internal valuations, they cut from 40 billion to 13 billion over the past 2 years.
They got that network effect. They outrun monetary policy, got to the network effect on time.
Exactly, right? You nailed it, dude. Like they basically outran it. It's crazy because they literally could have been a ZERP a casualty. Dude, like think about it. Getting a banana delivered to like a single banana. Is there anything more ZERPy than that?
That's ridiculous.
But they actually pulled it off.
Welcome to another episode of No Investment Advice. We've got Jack Butcher, Trung Phan, Bilal Zaidi here. What's going on, boys? Lots going on this week.
I just realized something. For the listeners, we're on the Zoom screen. I just realized right behind Jack's right shoulder, there's just a chair. There's like a WWE folding chair. That's true. It's just there for no. Dude, is that your closet chair? Did you guys ever do that? You guys ever do that in college?
I just swapped
your clothes on it.
I just swapped a nice chair for the temporary chair back there, you see?
Do you know what I mean by the
do you sit on
chair?
that chair? Is that your contemplating chair? What's going on there?
I would normally be sitting on that talking to you boys, but it's for an hour and a half. It's a little much.
You have to switch it up.
The armchair, the low slung.
There we go.
Wait,
all right.
You guys definitely had the closet chair in university, right? There's just one chair in your room, and you just put your clothes on it.
Oh, you put all the clothes on it?
Yeah.
Still
Have
got
you seen
that shit.
Did you see the Twitter thread the other week about the cuck chair in hotel rooms?
Wait, what is that?
It's probably for a different time, but the one random chair in the hotel room facing the bed.
Yeah, it's true. Like what? That's so true. Like what the hell is that?
The cuck chair.
The cuck chair. That is hilarious. Jesus Christ.
Well, okay, if you don't get that joke, do not Google it. Do not Google it at work.
Or wait till later, at least. But boys, we got a lot going on. So let's let people know what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about meme in a week, which is Trung is still standing till 69K Bitcoin, but hopefully we're all hoping that might change soon. There's a Grayscale versus SEC, little quick discussion to be had there. Klaviyo and Instacart, they're going public, so we're going to talk about that. And then from last week, stock exchange breakdowns. Trung's been doing some research there, going to break it down. And I think we got some input from some NIA listener too, right?
Let me do, before I forget here, let me do a quick shout out to Jack Dell, finance director at the London Stock Exchange.
There we go.
I hope I didn't out him as an NIA listener. That might be a fireable offense. if your information diet and you work in finance includes NIA, like that's a massive red
judgment
flag.
here. That's hilarious. I don't know if we'll get to it, but one other thing, the TikTok apparently going to be launching a Spotify competitor. We'll see if we get to that. If not, we'll cover it another week. But yeah, what you guys want to start with? Should we talk about Grayscale real quick? And
let's do it real quick. Why don't you read that tweet that was sent? So I'll pull the tweet. I'll give a background on Grayscale. For listeners that don't know, but I'm guessing most of the listeners do know because we've talked about it nonstop. Grayscale is the Bitcoin trust. So they're not an ETF. Like you can't buy in and out. Like they trade below net asset value. Like that's one of the big criticisms of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. The other big one being that they take a massive fee to manage basically the equivalent of an investable Bitcoin product. I have a lot of I have a lot. The majority of my Bitcoin holdings, which are not a lot, because I bought a ton of 69,000. But like Jack probably has, cold storage, wallet, the whole nine. The Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is meant for like total noobs like me that just wanted to be able to do it over Fidelity or the trading app. Anyways. If it gets turned, wait, dude, what is this?
Jack, are you presenting we just see the URL of a tweet right now.
Okay. Yeah. Hold on a second.
Were you sharing your screen?
Yeah.
There you go. That could have been a lot worse, but yeah, I thought you were trying to share a tweet about it.
The argument was Grayscale, a Bitcoin trust. They want to turn to proper ETF where people can buy and sell, and it's not there isn't this huge gap between the asset value, the underlying asset value, and the tradable instrument, which is what it is right now. I think it's trading like 50% discount. But anyways, here, why doesn't Jack read out this tweet?
So the thing that was announced this morning, Grayscale wins their lawsuit against the SEC. DC Circuit Court of Appeals is vacating SEC's denial of GBTC's conversion into an ETF. So what Trung was explaining, they're hoping to convert the trust into an ETF, which my understanding is would have far more retail exposure, be way the inflow of capital would be massively more than the trust vehicle, right?
And it gets rid of the discount because now it's actually a proper ETF. And crypto's pumping right now because of this.
Well, Trung, you just mentioned that. So right now there's either a discount or a premium. Right now it's a discount because
it's a massive discount, yeah.
And then in the past though, when you had bought it, I think it was a premium too, no?
There have been periods of premium and discounts.
Yeah.
I think the larger criticism is how big the fee is. I think it's 1.5%, whereas like a typical ETF is like 0.3, lower, right? Like basis points. So
that's like managed. Like if you're getting your money managed by someone paying 1%,
right?
There's nothing to manage.
No, exactly. Well, all the cold storage or whatever they're calling it, right? But anyways, the interesting thing here, and Jack pulled it up, is basically what the courts are saying is that the SEC they're picking and choosing which basically financial firm gets to have an ETF, right? Because I think they've greenlit or have set on the road similar products, ETF products for like BlackRock or Vanguard. And they're basically saying, listen, you can't just pick and choose who you want. Like if these are similar organizations, if you're saying that these people are allowed, then you have to treat like as like. I believe that's what they're saying. And I mean, crypto's pumping right now because of it. I mean, crypto's always pumping for some reason, right? I checked this morning, it was 1,800 Ethereum, 28,000 BTC. Really far from 69,000, by the way. So I'm still standing. For people, new listeners, the inside joke is I'm standing on this podcast until 69,000. I've been standing so much that I had to get a chair for my leg to. You know when you stand so much, you're like moving around. I got like a chair for your leg. Yeah. So so you can shift
the cock chair for your leg.
So the TLDR is this is positive for the creation of a proper Bitcoin ETF, which to Jack's point will increase retail participation.
And this is all like coming off the back of exactly, but this is all coming off the back of the legitimization of the BlackRocks of the world, I guess, coming in and what is it, 535 to 1 approvals on ETFs that they've put forth.
Yeah.
And now this is, you can't greenlight these guys and then, Stonewall, Grayscale, they've been applying for how long now? Years and years and years.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, I just want that discount to close. I'm just being honest here. Anyways, any other thoughts on that, boys?
No, I think it literally just came out as we were about to record, so I don't think there's much more on it right now. Should we, as we learn more, we'll maybe talk about it again, but I think for now that should be good. Should we move on to Klaviyo and Instacart IPOs, Trung?
Absolutely, let's do it.
What's going on there? Because last week we talked about the other big IPO going on. So when's the Klaviyo? This is literally coming up right now.
Yeah, so when we talked last week about the ARMS IPO filing, they did an F1, the Klaviyo and Instacart did more traditional S1 filings. If I'm being honest, I don't even know what the difference is. I just know that was a document that came out. But last week we talked about does this open the IPO window? Because earlier this year, actually, do you guys see the listing for that? Have you guys ever eaten this place? Bilal, you might have. Kava?
Yeah, Kava.
Is it good?
Yeah.
So is Kava good?
Right? Yeah, it's decent. It's kind of like a Chipotle
like a
Mediterranean
style. Yeah, Mediterranean Chipotle. Okay. So
you can eat pretty clean there. It's pretty
there
good.
You go. Because when Jack's back on his count and broccoli diet, he can eat every day. So Kava went public earlier this year. I think it doubled on its IPO date. And the idea of IPO window, like being open or closed, you often hear this in the financial media, is like, what is the retail appetite for an IPO right now, right? So in 2022, when everyone was getting clapped, there was no appetite for a retail participation in the IPO market, and also a lot of people got burnt on that SPAC game, so they didn't trust anything going public, right? So last week, talked about ARM. So ARM will be by far the biggest public listing this year. 60 to 70 billion is what they're targeting. Even if it don't even get that, I mean, 50 billion will be tops. So that opened the door in some people's eyes to other listings. So Instacart's the big boy after ARM. And I mean, everybody here, man, for the listeners that don't know Instacart, I think it's a 10-year-old company at this point. It's like a online delivery platform for groceries.
Yeah.
So
it's like Uber Eats for groceries, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Have you guys ever used Instacart? I've only used it like a half a dozen times.
I've used it like a couple times because the Chase Sapphire, you get like the free account or whatever. You get like $20 to use. So one time I tried it, but there's no point for me using it because there's like a place downstairs.
Right? You walk right down the street. What about you, Jack?
Yeah, we've used it. I think there's also a lot of places have a direct one now.
Yeah, a lot of places.
Vendor to do it.
Costco, just go direct.
Whole Foods, I think, has its own thing.
Yeah,
right?
I do it on
Amazon,
Whole Foods direct.
Like Prime.
Yeah.
That's what we use most of the time, I think.
Instacart's a pretty sizable business, though. Like, I think I'll throw some numbers out there. So they obviously during COVID, I mean, this is one of you're talking about the COVID bump. So like Zoom is an obvious one. Everyone remote, but Instacart, everyone's at home. They're like the delivery businesses. So I think they hired, I can't remember how many they hired, a couple 100,000 contractors to pick groceries. So the thing with Instacart, I mean, their business model, how it started was they'll just put a margin on top of the grocery items. And I think their margin is actually quite big. I think the average grocery store margin is tiny. We're talking like 2-3%, right? On top of like your fruits, your canned goods, and like whatever you buy, rice, chicken. I think Instacart, when they add on and everybody knows what delivery fees and tips, right? I think it ends up being closer to 8, 9, 10%. So like from a shopping standpoint, like if you're a family and like you're trying to scrimp on bucks, like this is not like a good option, right? It's definitely for like idiots like us have that are tangentially involved in the tech industry and have disposable income and are willing to pay 10% margins on groceries. So there's the delivery fee. But the interesting about the business model is 30 to 40% of it now. So I think they did 1.8 billion last year. 30 to 40% is actually advertising now. So, and if you think about it, this is actually, this is the nature of how all tech platforms are headed that have first party data. So like Amazon has a massive advertising business. There's a $40 billion advertising business now. Walmart has a $3 billion advertising business. Uber has a $1 billion advertising business, or they plan to have that I think is at 500 million now. But the point is that because of Apple's app policies around privacy tracking, which we've talked about a ton here, if you have first party data, Bilal, can you explain what first party data is versus more general stuff, which is like
there's like third party, yeah, but essentially. Forget that for now, but it's like they will be able to you can go directly and use their own data within the app, essentially. So like whatever they're collecting first party, they're able to use that. So
for example, what are they collecting? Like how old somebody is, where their demographic is,
yeah, but I think even, I mean,
exactly what you bought,
yeah, exactly. So exactly. So it's like very accurate versus like buying from like there's these things like ad exchanges and stuff like that where you can get like third party stuff as well. So that's the difference between the two. But I'd say, I was going to ask you, in Instacart specifically, is it are there ads that show up like Costco's promoting certain stuff within there or something?
Exactly.
Right?
Grocery stores promote brands. Grocery stores promote things, but also brands
as well. That's smart. So it's the same way in a supermarket. They're replicating what happens in the supermarket, right?
Exactly.
You basically rent like the front of the store or stuff like that.
Dude, this is the other part I was going to say is like this Instacart model basically converged to, if you have a giant platform of first party data, not only first party data, Bilal, can you explain why purchase data is like, purchase data is the most valuable first party data, right?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I guess because ultimately people are trying to drive purchases and there's no greater truth than a purchase, I guess, in this case. So the inferred, like if you say someone's got data on like demographics or their age, whatever, their income, that might be interesting, but you're only finding that interesting because you're predicting that person might be have a higher likelihood of purchasing something. Whereas someone who's actually bought your competitor's stuff before or similar category of item, that is obviously a lot more indicative of purchasing.
You know, they're in the market, for example, for cold brew, which is what I meant. So Jack right now is drinking some
Don't tell me what you think. Show me your portfolio.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I mean, right? It's like when I listed off all those companies like Walmart, Target has that program, Amazon.
He's got it going. Kirkland Cold Brew on the
Costco
screen.
would have a killer.
We are willing to be sponsored by Kirkland, the biggest CPG brand in the world.
100%. Bigger than Nike. Did you see that?
That's a Kirkland chair back there too, by the way.
Is there?
The cuck chair?
Yeah.
Sorry, Tron, didn't want to cut you off, but I needed to.
No. I mean, it's like, no, this is all great. This is all great bands, people. What we're talking about, Instacart's a fascinating business, right? So it ended up converging to what large supermarket chains end up doing. Like, Bilal, you nailed it. What do large supermarket chains do? Kroger, for example, it's the third largest, they might even be the second largest grocer in America after Walmart. So they make billions of dollars a year on what's called vendor allowances. Like, it's two things: vendor allowances and placement fees. So, Bilal, you nailed it. It's like where, like, you guys know when you go into a grocery store and if you see, like, you're walking down the aisle and you see something eye level, that person is paying more to have it placed on the eye level. Nobody's buying the sauce, the ketchup on the bottom rack. Like, no one's bending down to that bottom rack.
Unless it's sriracha,
right?
then you make an effort, you know. But no, you're right.
Bro, you know sriracha is getting that eye level. Oh, 100%.
Definitely.
But the whole point is that these models, the grocery model leans towards where they make money on vendor allowances. So vendor allowances kind of like the food brands will give you product at just they'll bake in the discount that they'll sell it to you for wholesale, and they'll give you the margin on retail. And then the other part is like placement. So if you actually go to the Instacart app, you see is like you open the app and all they have are generic items because they want to force brands like generic categories. Like they're saying like they're calling it like banana, they're calling it rice, and they're forcing the brands to like advertise against these names, right? Like they're not going to show off these names.
Hey, I don't know what it was, but I laughed at that too. What was it? That was so funny, Jack.
Because I don't know. I guess branded bananas and rice are funny, right? Because they're not.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, they're more generic. It'd be like, I mean, what would be a good
tomato sauce or something like that?
Yeah, tomato
Heinz
sauce.
Yeah,
exactly. So interesting business, a super interesting business, and they've actually turned around and become profitable. I mean, this was just one of those ZERP businesses. It was like their internal valuations, they cut from 40 billion to 13 billion over the past 2 years because they knew it was ZERPy. Like it was a very zero interest rate policy type thing to have somebody.
They got that network effect. They outrun monetary policy, got to the network effect on time.
Exactly, right? You nailed it, dude. Like they basically outran it. It's crazy because they literally could have been a ZERP a casualty because of how, like, dude, like think about it. Getting a banana delivered to like a single banana. Is there anything more ZERPy than that?
That's ridiculous.
But they actually pulled it off.
Yeah.
And the interesting
good
about
name
them
too.
Yeah,
it's like a good like overarching thing. It's good.
So they're going public. I don't know what the valuation is going to be. I think they did 1.8 bill. I mean, it'll probably be close-ish to what they marked themselves internally down to. So they went from 40 bill to 13 bill, ballparkish. So they actually brought in, Bilal, you might know this. They brought in a new CEO in the last 18 months. She was the former head of Facebook's Blue. So Facebook Blue is the main original Facebook feed. That's what they call it internally. They call it Blue, the Blue app. So she used to run the Blue app. And how does Facebook make all this money? Advertising. So that they knew what Instacart was building. They knew they were building a platform.
Is this FitGSimo? Is that?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't know could you also pull up the founder? Can you actually,
let's have a look.
The founder, I think it's Arpu Mehta, is a founder of Instacart. I think he's Canadian actually, so shout out.
Apoorva Mehta, that one.
Yeah, Apoorva Mehta. Shout out, Canadian cat. And I'll tell you, so one last thing about Instacart's IPO. I think it is interesting.
He's 36 years old, I think, by the way.
Well,
young cat, but to be, I mean, I guess already a billion on paper, but the thing about him is the way he got into Y Combinator is he sent Gary Tan, who's now the president of Y Combinator, he sent him beers from Instacart to show him how.
Oh, that's incredible.
It's a decade ago. Smart.
Very smart.
Anyways.
Wait, that was Gary Tan, and Gary Tan wasn't even.
He wasn't president at the time. He was. He was
just an investor,
one
right?
of the investors. Yeah.
That's smart, killing it. So what?
Any other thoughts, boys?
On Instacart?
No.
Oh, but it's interesting that you mentioned the valuation change, obviously, because did you say at the height it was like 40 billion?
Yeah, that was when it was like this really funny money.
Do you know what like Uber Eats is relative to Uber revenue wise? Tiny, right?
Oh, no, I think it's almost 50-50 now.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's massive. It is massive.
And they're going into like grocery game and all that stuff as well, right? They're not going to stick to burger and chips.
Everything, deliver anything.
Right. CVS, they'll do anything.
They'll do anything, man.
Office
Well,
Max.
I mean, well, dude, it's the classic MBA, right? Like, it's what is the problem to be solved? Something being brought to your house. If I want a banana, if I want a single banana delivered to my house,
You'll get it.
One of these platforms will do it.
I've done a $45 Burger King before, boys. I think that's the times.
I've definitely done that. Oh, the Popeyes. Remember when the Popeyes chicken sandwich was going crazy? And do you guys remember this? Trunk, did you see that?
I didn't have it though.
People were shooting people up.
Popeyes is not that hot up here.
There were a few deaths because people were fighting over this. Or people were going to the store because it was like they sold out of them. To be fair, they were very good. But still, you can't be fighting over chicken burgers, you know what I mean?
No, you should not be doing that.
By the way, have you guys, I was Googling that, what percent of Uber revenue is Uber Eats? Have you guys seen this, by the way?
Show me the chart.
It's like a Bard integration, it looks like.
Read it out, buddy.
Oh, wow.
This is sick. The only reason I'm bringing it up is just because, so it says 2022, 34% of Uber revenue was Uber Eats.
There we go.
You know what?
But that is sick. I'm just trying to think if that's accurate. I haven't seen this before with like the search.
That's mental. That's mental because is that in the US or is that everywhere?
I think
that's
I'm
global.
not sure.
Total revenue. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I just want to flag one thing.
I mean, if you think about it, people eat 3 meals a day. You know, more people eat 3 meals a day than take a taxi every day.
That's a good
100%.
point, actually.
Well, look, I have something to flag here.
Not everybody eats 3 meals a day. If anyone, that's you
can
lifestyle. Fact check me on that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I didn't think to bring this up in the middle when it occurred to me, but I can't even remember the connecting tissue, but the OnlyFans revenue came out the last couple of days. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw those numbers. They're insane.
Crushing.
Jack's face when he said crushing. Insane. What was it?
It's your meme, isn't it? The gluttony, lust.
No, it's a Substack
envy.
versus OnlyFans, right?
Crazy.
It's unreal.
They're
not even in the App Store. That's the whole. They can't even be in the App Store because of Apple. It's literally just a website. Hold on a second. I'll pull it up.
I see 2022, 1 billion, but it must be way higher.
No, hey, Bilal, why don't you pull that up and I'll finish my last thought on Instacart. I just want to flag every week we have to mention Bilal used to work for Google. I like how he pulled up Bard. He had to shout out Bard.
You got to plug it in.
Look at this feature.
You didn't know, Google
that's pretty sick.
Chat app.
That is a pretty sick integration, to be honest.
Why don't you just use ChatGPT, Bilal? Why don't you just use Bing? Why did it have to be Google, dude? Why has to be Google?
I like what I like, you know what I mean? So
all right,
let me pull up, what was it? OnlyFans revenue. Let's see.
Yeah. So the OnlyFans stuff, before we've talked about this, but like Substack paid out, I think the meme was a year ago, Substack paid out $9 million to the writers. Or no, its revenue was $9 million. It paid out way more, like hundreds of millions to writers. But OnlyFans revenue was like $1 billion. So like people are like, listen, people like certain things.
Here we go. Sorry, I see. Here we go. These are 2022 numbers though, yeah?
Yeah, hit it.
For the whole year. 5.6 billion GMV, up 17% year over year. 1.1 billion in revenue, which I'm assuming their kind of take rate or whatever. 525 in pre-tax profit, 48% profit margin. 3.1 million creators on the platform. That's up 47% as well. This is the best part. 338 million in dividends paid out to the owner. What an absolute Chad.
Dude, this is I got to tell you guys something about this.
Clicks to bricks, maybe.
That is incredible.
I don't know if you remember the when Pornhub was getting, the PE company bought Pornhub. It was like some weird transaction. but I actually got texted by somebody in the PE space. They're like, oh yeah, we saw this deal come across our desk. He's like, the problem with all these, there's no enterprise value in these, like, I mean, I'm not going to say OnlyFans doesn't have enterprise value because it's not pure porn business or like adult business, but I'm assuming that the majority of it is like when you don't have enterprise value or you can't sell at a high multiple because a lot of buyers are removed from the field, right? Not a lot of buyers can come in and buy OnlyFans. Like they have restrictions on what they can buy. You just pay yourself fat dividends. That's how you make money, right? You just pay yourself the fattest. So let's run through that again, Bilal. You said there's a bill.
He's English too, right?
Yeah, there's a bill. It's an English cat. So like a bill, also previous porn king or adult industry king. So a bill.
I'll pull it up on the screen so you guys can see at the same time.
500 pre-tax. 500 pre-tax.
Smash it. Can you guys see that? Our boy Tene. I mean, yeah, wild numbers. This is also interesting. The number of people on the platform.
Forgot to bring something up while you're talking about Instacart, and it wasn't even this. This wasn't the example, but this came out. It was Rouse. Campbell's just bought Rouse. You know that little.
Oh yeah. The pasta sauce.
The Italian pasta sauce and spaghetti and we spent absolute fortune on that stuff. And they I think they got bought out by some PE firm a couple of years ago, and they just went ape shit marketing that stuff. Talk about the eyeline marketing and discounts, buy one get one free.
It's a little expensive as well, though. I mean, it's more premium price point than just the regular ones. It's not like super expensive.
It was like Trung's price psychology thread. It's like $14 down to $8 or something ridiculous. That's a decent deal. Yeah, it's still twice the price. Is it delicious?
It's delicious.
It's incredible.
It's really
it's unbelievably good.
It's actually and it's fairly low. Like they don't add sugar, I don't think. It's just kind of like natural sugar from tomatoes or whatever. It's the best tasting one though. The one, in my opinion, as well. And I'm a little worried they're gonna just change it now that it's part of the big company. They're just gonna water that shit down.
That's what happens with the PE game, son. I've been noticing Wendy's since they've been getting some more of the PE money. The burgers are a little bit less square.
Yeah, a little bit more husk in there.
All right,
Trung, you want to talk Klaviyo too?
No, I want to tee up Jack on this. Let's tee Jack up. So for the listeners, the other big filing, this all came out on Thursday, Friday last week. Again, ARM. Once ARM came out, people were just like, people are going to get hyped. The retail investors want some more IPO action. So Klaviyo is what would you call email marketing platform. Is this right, Jack? Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't call themselves just that, but yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
What are they? Marketing automation.
Yeah, marketing.
Something ridiculous.
What's this? CMS.
CRM or something. Yeah,
that's all of that shit. They probably want to.
They have a ton of customer stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I think
marketing automation for email marketing SMS. There we go.
There you go.
You want to control your customer. You want first-party data? This is what it's about. We're talking about first-party data, is having your customers controlling all the information. And MailChimp is probably the closest comp. I don't know how similar their product lines are. I know they're quite similar. MailChimp was acquired by Intuit for over $10 billion. Klaviyo last valued at $10 billion. Klaviyo does, I think, $500 million revenue. So that's 20 times rev is the private valuation. Again, I don't think it'll get that valuation in public markets unless the retail appetite is as they believe. But the reason I say all this is because, listeners, when I was sending these topics earlier to the group, Jack was not pleased with his experience with Klaviyo. Jack, can you tell us what you've done with Klaviyo? Was it for visualized value, and what was your issue with it?
No, I mean, I will say I got the recommendation to use it from a very experienced direct-to-consumer marketer.
Yeah.
Okay. So this somebody who's
it's really e-commerce, their big segment.
Configuring ridiculously complicated flows and logic and.
Can you explain what a flow and logic is?
Yeah. So basically, based on a purchase or a behavior on an e-com store, you can have Klaviyo. You can build all of these automations to produce different outcomes. So, you left something in your cart. So it sends you an email after an hour. It sends you another email after a day saying, here's a discount. All of these different things that you can do to bring people back to your site or serve up marketing emails. There's tons of different stuff. Anything you can imagine as like if this, then that with email or SMS now, I guess, is a huge part of their service too. So the first time it did not look like that. I don't know if that was the back end that they're showing on there now.
Yeah, that was just on their homepage. I've only I only know from like people I've worked with who do, like you said, like very advanced e-commerce. I think in e-commerce it's kind of like the standard from my understanding, whereas like MailChimp positioning was a lot more like anyone can start sort of thing. And like you'll see them advertising on podcasts and stuff like that.
It's like the church fate doing this stuff on MailChimp.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And then you've got Klaviyo, which is like, Jack, you do have an e-commerce business, obviously, but it might be like if you've got like a very complicated one with like thousands of SKUs and
like
different
ASOS
countries.
could use Klaviyo,
exactly.
Right?
They
like
probably
ridiculously complicated. And I think the comparison I used was Oracle when we were talking about it earlier in the week. It's like they have these really deep, like almost untangleable integrations with big businesses. So like as a really small e-commerce store, you could just export your email list, move it somewhere else, and then build your simple flows up again. But if you have these like sequences that convert, I'm paying a ridiculous amount of money for an email service still. But those things, the ratcheted pricing on them goes absolutely nuts too. Like when you get past like 50,000 subscribers, you're at, I don't know, $700 a month, $800 a month. And then from there just goes up and up and up. And obviously the cost to provide that service is zero extra for them, maybe a couple extra pennies on server costs or whatever, but the amount of
the switching cost
lock-in
is
crazy. Yeah. It's so I'm actually convincing myself otherwise after having this conversation with you boys, because I was just not the customer for it.
Yeah,
so I use ConvertKit now, which is way more targeted at the 50,000, 100,000 emails. Yeah, like one person writing the emails and building the flows. This stuff is like, yeah, like you said, Bilal, you have 1,000 SKUs and every SKU has customization options and all that crazy.
And it's like someone's full-time job to basically there might be Klaviyo, like 5 people, 10 people working on just Klaviyo and all the email marketing stuff. So,
and they're surprisingly, sorry, Bilal, they're surprisingly not like one-for-one competitors at that end. Like the I don't even know what the other one would be. ConvertKit, I think, could technically do all that stuff. Also, Shopify is trying to ship that stuff as part of the platform too, right? Like they're trying to create these flows native to the store. And I always hated the fact that there was these 2 dashboards that you're looking at and you're trying to like marry the logic over from one to another. And it just...
This is where it gets interesting. Jack, let me bring this up.
Yeah, go on.
No, I was gonna say you nailed one of the biggest risks to Klaviyo. Shopify, 80% of Klaviyo's revenue, again, I think it's about $500 million, is related to Shopify stores. Shopify owns 11% of Klaviyo. And exactly to your point, they have an identical competing product that's more natively integrated to Shopify. So there's this balancing act, basically. Shopify needs to decide, and Klaviyo, like, how much do we just let Klaviyo be the best at this email marketing? There's revenue share with Klaviyo. So like Shopify has a lot of leverage here, but Klaviyo has some leverage, right? Because people know how to use it. It's like everything you said. People know how to use Klaviyo. They've already have their data there. Shopify's leverage is we can just cut you off and you're done.
It would be insane.
It would be insane, right? So
cut
like this is
buy
actually...
them back.
And buy back. That's the tension. So this, the reason I didn't mean to cut you off there, but it's like you brought up one of the most interesting points about Klaviyo is how tightly tied they are to Shopify and what tensions that bring. So again, none of this is investment advice, people. Like I bought GPTC at 69,000. Do not take any of this as investment advice.
Yeah.
But we're trying to drop knowledge with Jack's got on the ground experience here. It wasn't like Instacart where I ordered a banana once and don't have much experience with it.
Yeah, I've changed my point of view on it a little bit from this conversation, but it was like it is not what you would think of as like consumer facing technology product, right? It really is like bordering on an enterprise solution, which obviously there's a lot of value there and a lot of lock-in. And I couldn't, like, we used to work with Oracle when I was in the agency world, and to look at any of their products, it's like, what is this thing? And they're all kicking off hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue, and they're like, just to the point where they've been in these organizations for 10 years, nobody wants to change them. Right? We used to do our expense reports through Oracle. I don't know if you boys have ever been in a company that uses that. It's just like fucking painful.
What was it called? What was their one called?
Almost a feature.
Was it Concur? Was that them? Or was that
There's something
else?
like that. I don't know. And like point of sale stuff, they have a bunch of that in that world. So it's kind of like, I feel like in some ways that stuff is a feature, like the complexity of it, the like pain that
Salesforce as well is like that, right? Yeah, exactly. Once you're in, you've already spent so much time training everyone. It looks ugly, but it kind of works. And then you're like, okay, if we're gonna transport all this data to a new system, we got to train everyone again. It's like, is it even worth the effort?
It's crazy. And most of the time, like the person that built it isn't even there, or they got paid to come in from the outside, or it's like free money for these platforms. Because I'm not canceling my $700 a month email marketing thing, even though I barely use it. Because I'm just like, if I want to decide to start that up again, it's way more than even 12 months of that recurring amount in effort to get going again. So it's like, if that's the situation for me, I can't even imagine what it's like for
what ASOS, right?
Yeah, like one of your emails is recouping. If you can write an email, right? One of your emails is recouping the fee you pay to Klaviyo, and that's like a really justifiable business expense too. It's not like a pool table or a massage parlor or whatever. It's like these things are like you know what I'm talking about, though. This is like
I went to a massage parlor and I saw Jack's chair inside. The exact chair. I'm like, what is it? This is supposed to be in the hotel.
You know what I'm saying? This is like the opposite of a zero interest rate phenomenon.
Yeah, it's actually
business
like
expense. It's direct marketing. It's like the first thing that you start going ape shit on versus like, oh, we're going to do a Super Bowl ad, or we're going to, buy our employees vests.
Yeah, this is like infrastructure, basically. It's like, making sure your servers are up and making sure your email is set up properly for those companies. That's a good point, man.
My bad experience with Klaviyo has actually become the bull case in my mind.
No, but you're right, because it might you weren't the right customer, but it was too many bells and whistles. Like, it's probably confusing to use, but for them, it's like
it also makes it sellable. It also makes it sellable by vendors because it's so fucking hard to use.
Oh, that's true.
You're gonna pay somebody just to take it off your plate.
100%.
Like in having an accountant.
Yeah. Trung, anything else on the Klaviyo IPO itself?
The only other thing I'd add is founded in Boston, and the founders have 38% of the company because they didn't do it. They're very capital efficient. So these MFs are about
that
to
4%, that 4%.
Yeah, they're about to be caked, son. They're about to be
nice,
caked.
Man. Good for them. Good for them. Smashing it.
When is there a date or anything on that?
I think all the ARM, Instacart, and Klaviyo will all hit the markets in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Nice.
So not investment advice.
Watch for the opening bell.
Investment advice.
All right, talking of opening bell, nice transition into our next topic. There we go. Stock exchange breakdowns. Boy, look at that, Jack's grin. That was nowhere near on the level of that one time Trung did the hard. Do you remember that hard pivot? Yeah, we were like, where did this come from? But what we got. So we talked about it last week. We were talking about London Stock Exchange, I think.
Yeah.
But Trung's been doing some research into this to break it down because it's quite an interesting business. So we're going to talk about the industry landscape, the business model, and why stock exchanges are more powerful than banks. Over to you, Trung.
Well, let's start with here, hold on a second. Jack was the one that was most curious about this. And then speaking of Jack's, again, shout out to Jack D. Bell, a finance director at London Stock Exchange Group.
Love it.
He sent some.
A legend.
I caught these DMs. I'm like, oh, this is gold.
What a name for a stock exchange employee, Jack the Bell.
Jack the Bell. Dad, I didn't even read. Is that actually his name?
Yeah, it's a British cat. So he he pointed me towards so I know our boy Matt Russell from Colossus who listens to NIA every now and then. So Matt, if you're listening, thank you for the business breakdown episode about the London Stock Exchange Group, because I did listen to that. Jack Bell had told me to listen to that one, so I did. I don't know how I missed it the first time, but that Mark Rubenstein writes a great newsletter called Net Interest. He wrote something called The New Power Brokers, and The Economist has a lot of coverage about this industry topic. So Jack, was there anything that piqued your interest from the categories that Bilal mentioned that you would want me to get into first?
I think the thing that's like sparked the inquisition into the stock exchange was, why is ARM going to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange versus the LSE, and how does that work, and what is the relationship between those two entities, et cetera, et cetera. So just like the very basic, like who has access to these things, IPO, blah, 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 blah. You hit it.
Yeah.
This answer was answered directly by Jack. So I'll the other Jack, not our Jack. So I'll give the kind of TLDR is we kind of touched on it. It was the depth of the market, the liquidity, so where people trade the most, and the kind of secondary effects of that. And so NASDAQ,
I have a one challenge for that is like, why don't all companies list themselves on the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ?
Well, this is what's happening. Yeah. Ultimately, this is what the best ones really do, though. Like the largest IPOs end up going to the United States. When they don't, the biggest cases have been China related. So the Hong Kong Stock Exchange is a massive company, and they're obviously very close to mainland China. So for the past decade, the similar to how we talked about ARM, which is an English company, like they're deciding whether or not to be in the FTSE, which is the Financial Times Stock Exchange stock, the market where they would list, versus going to the NASDAQ United States. Previously, all the big Chinese IPOs that happened, they're discussing should we go to the US, because, you know, the US investors, that's where the largest capital base is. That's where the largest source of capital is. But for China, China makes sense, right? It's very political. It's like, it would make sense why some companies would just list on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. And that's actually why the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, which currently has a market cap of about $50 billion. So let me list off the industry players as the stock exchange. So the largest one is actually the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. They're about $75 billion. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange is about $50 billion. ICE is a $65 billion company.
What is this number?
Market cap.
For the company itself, not the market cap of companies on there, obviously, right? Because that's way bigger.
Yeah, those are the market cap of these exchanges. They're big. They're big companies.
Got it, okay.
The Deutsche Börse, which is the German one, is 40 billion, and the NASDAQ is 26 billion. So these are
surprising. I didn't realize NASDAQ's smaller than a lot of those.
Yeah. So like, well, the big part of let me actually talk to the business model. So Jack, I don't know if that the main point being that most companies, if you actually want quote unquote the deepest markets and the most liquid markets, you do go to the United States, and it makes sense intuitively, right? This is where the most capital is, and it's the American investors. And
the media it was also that comes with the those, media,
everything that comes with that, right? And this is from the Business Breakdown podcast, so they brought up a great point. Is stock exchange business is a winner takes most. It's because of the nature of it, right? Whoever has the most liquidity is going to attract the most listings, the most participants. Gives them even more liquidity, which gives even more liquidity. Placement. Yeah. Well, rich gets richer, right? Same with and we'll talk about this with how actual businesses work. So when you think of stock exchange, you think about trading, but trading in and of itself is only one of four main business lines. So trading, just like it is with brokerages, the trading itself has been competed basically down to zero. Like the commissions people get now on trading are just, compared to the volume they do, like I'll give you some numbers that these guys do right now. We're talking like, I think like, for example, foreign exchange derivatives are in the trillions of dollars daily, right? And so the commissions on these are infinitesimal. They're basis points, and they're just getting competed down. So the way a lot of these companies make money now is through data. They have all this data. So if you're a financial market participant, you want to pay for access to this data for your decision making, right? Does that make sense?
It makes sense in theory, but what's the format for them delivering that?
Licensing, similar or like Bloomberg-ish, where
Right,
you're like,
right.
here's a data feed. You have a data feed of real-time financial data. You want to know what's trading where and how these prices are moving. We'll give it to you. You pay licensing.
So the Bloomberg pays a fee to access like the real-time buy and sell data from the New York Stock Exchange. Is that accurate?
Or the CME.
Right.
Will give them real-time derivatives data. And Bloomberg also has their own data too, right? They also sell data to, they have a ton of first-party, like fixed income data that they sell to people, which is like obviously super. I mean, obviously the terminal is their main thing. They sell it through the terminal. Like people have to, like you pay $30,000 a month for one Bloomberg terminal. Is it a month or is it
30 grand a year? I'm pretty sure.
30 grand a year. Yeah. So just back, the one other thing I wanted to mention about the LSE and why ARM picked NASDAQ, there's actually, and you kind of touched on it, is like the media coverage. So NASDAQ actually also did like promise some level of marketing for ARM. Like, we're going to help you may have a successful IPO, right? Like, we are going to hit, like,
we're going to call up NIA and get them to do a segment.
Yeah. Exactly. So I hope that kind of answered the larger question of why ARM picked NASDAQ and why, I mean, a lot of the largest IPOs end up in the United States for that reason, right? Winner takes most. So think about it. Wherever there's more capital come, and then it's just a cycle. Same with data. Because data is now such a big part of these companies, like we're talking 50% plus of their revenue, wherever there's more data, people will be more willing to participate to pay for that data. They want to contribute to those data pools in exchange for whatever. So they might give data to get data, and then that just begets more and more data. So like the kind of the main revenue streams, which is like trading, liquidity, capital, participants, and then data, they're both winner takes most. Like both of these markets, if you, it tends toward scale and like these kind of monster businesses. Now, Bilal kind of asked or mentioned one of the points about stock exchanges becoming more powerful than banks. And let me explain why. So over the past decade, because as we mentioned, these are winner take most industries, there's been a ton of consolidation. So I'll give you an idea of what's happened over the past 15 years or so. So in 2007, New York Stock Exchange bought Euronext. This include the Amsterdam and Paris exchanges. ICE, which is a $65 billion exchange company, bought the New York Stock Exchange in 2013. So you see this consolidation happening. So this one company bought the Paris and Amsterdam exchange, and then it was bought by a larger company, which combined it with the New York Stock Exchange. But they actually spun out the Euro stuff. Now CME, go ahead, Jack.
I was just going to say, I feel like it's a common misconception that these are private companies.
They used to be. This is great. So stock exchanges used to be owned by the members, and the members were the people that transaction on them, asset managers, brokers, and banks. They, around early 2000s, in the term, it's called demutualized. Demutualized is the equivalent of like, now it's no longer member owned. They went public. And a big part of that is because this is a scale business. And I guess as technology improved through the 90s and into the 2000s, you can really get the benefits of scale, right? Because everything I mentioned about participants and data, obviously they're less important in the 1980s and not less important, but less powerful. But as you get into the 2000s and on, it's so clear that if you have all these institutions together, they'll just be so powerful. And that's basically in the early 2000s, late 90s, is exactly to your point. It went away from membership owned. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the London Stock Exchange goes back hundreds of years, right? It's literally like
Lindy
exchange. Yeah, it's a Lindy. It's a very Lindy idea. I mean, that's a great point that you brought up. And so basically, as soon as one started going public of these groups, it forced everybody else to do it because, again, winner takes most. So as we said off the top, there's about 6 of these giants in the field. And so I saw a quote here doing research for this, but like basically every country wants 3 things. One of them is their own airline. I forgot what the second one was, but another one's a stock exchange. Like every country has a stock. Actually, so when I was living in Vietnam, there's a Ho Chi Minh Stock Exchange. But like the entire market cap of the Ho Chi Minh Stock Exchange was like, it's like Apple's is like a tenth of Apple, right? But like to have your own stock exchange as a country is like kind of a patriotic type of thing. So like every country will have a stock exchange, but they're minnows, right? Like this is how the industry goes. The reality is that the big boys, or the 6 ones I described, kind of run everything. Now, let me just talk through the other consolidations that happened. CME acquired Dow Jones in 2010. ICE acquired, and this is where, so recently it's the data play. So remember, the business lines, trading, settlement, and then data. So data is a big part of it. And one I haven't even touched on is indexation. So like when you all these indexes we talk about, S&P, Dow, NASDAQ, FTSE, they all benefit from this passive investing boom. So over the past decade, trillions of dollars have gone into BlackRock ETFs, like passive investing, right? Like we are probably all invested in the SPY, which is an S&P 500 ETF. Well, guess what the SPY has to do? The SPY has to track an index. So who creates the indices are these companies. So that's a huge business line for them too. So the last couple of years, the big deals that happened was ICE acquired, and ICE stands for Intercontinental Exchange. Maybe I'm missing a word there, but ICE acquired Ellie Mae, which tracks mortgage data. And then LSE, London Stock Exchange, acquired Refinitiv, which used to be Thomson Financial, for $27 billion in 2020. So these 2 deals that I just mentioned, ICE acquiring Ellie Mae, a mortgage data firm in 2020, that was $11 billion, and Refinitiv acquired by LSE for $27 billion. Both happened 2 years ago. So again, winner takes most. These exchanges come together, and then on top of that, they're layering on this data business, because data is where they're making now a lot of the cheddar. So does that landscape kind of make sense? Okay, so the thing I haven't touched on is the power shift. This is what we were teased last week. Why is it that the exchanges now are quote unquote more powerful than the banks? So in the 2008 financial crisis, I mean, we're talking, who are the big boys that we remember? AIG was a big insurance firm. They were caught up in a large MBS BS. Obviously, Lehman Brothers Investment Bank, they had a ton of MBS, mortgage-backed securities, toxic mortgage-backed securities on their balance sheet. Goldman, JP Morgan. JP Morgan scooped up so many assets out of this one, right? But basically, after 2008, this is what happened. 2 things specifically. This comes from Mark Rubenstein's newsletter. He highlights 2 things that happened that made the exchanges more powerful than the banks, or shifted the playing field. So the first thing that happened was that so many derivatives were transacted during the financial crisis. Like we know this, right? We get this, like the derivative products.
Yep.
Oh, we're on board with that. Yeah. So
yeah.
And that was going from basically bank to bank and like mortgage originators. So that was between banks and the mortgage originators. The exchanges were not very much involved. But after the financial crisis, the government was like, well, listen, we actually want a centralized party. So they call it the clearinghouses. And this is where these CME is a big one, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. We want you guys mediating these derivatives, because before it was kind of like the Wild Wild West. Like a bank's cutting a derivative deal here with this random mortgage originator, and then this bank's doing a deal with this bank. They're like, we want it all in one place. So what happens if it's all in one place now? Those exchanges get to determine the rules of the game. So they get to say, oh, you need to have this much collateral to do these derivative deals. And like, we get to call on you on that collateral. So they're basically controlling the playing field now for the derivatives market, and they get to set the rules. Do you guys see how like that would give them so much more power than the banks have?
Yeah.
So that's one big one. These exchanges are now intermediating all these derivatives, which are massive markets, like trillions of dollars, right? And then the second thing that's really big, and this will make sense, we touched on it, is the indexation. These exchanges create all the indices that we know of, like S&P 500, S&P, whatever, 1,000, the FTSE 100, the FTSE 250, these random like ESG indices that they create. And now people, but you know how there's all these memes of like, oh, BlackRock and Vanguard are like, they own every company in the world and they're like this evil oligopoly. Well, the reality is that the real ones, if you believe in that like conspiracy theory, the ones that are actually setting the table are the exchanges, because the exchanges get to determine what goes into these indices, right? And I'll give you a very salient example happened was when the Exxon was removed from the Dow Jones. So Dow Jones is owned by CME, and they took Exxon out of the indice, the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's 30 companies. They took out Exxon and put in Salesforce. Salesforce pumped by like 5%. Exxon completely sold off. So this just gives you an idea how their decision making complete, like they transfer that's hundreds of billions of dollars in value. Just like decision.
Can they just, because isn't it based on, in that case, isn't it usually based on market cap or is there?
Yeah, so like it is in that case like
S&P 500 is the 500 rules, biggest.
Right?
But for example, the one you said, the ESG ones, there's probably a little bit more like
more discretion, different,
right? Criteria. Like, are they doing certain things in that space or whatever?
No, but I mean, like, it's huge though, because it moves hundreds of billions of dollars. Right? The asset managers, like, think about these pensions that have mandates. They have to track like certain indices. So that just to summarize is like post 2008, two huge things happened. It was a move from active to passive investing. So investors just wanted, like, we'll just track whatever. Like, we can't outpick names. We'll just track the indices. And tons of money moved. As much as we joke about like the retail investors and Wall Street biz, like, so much money is in passive, right? And the second thing was derivatives moving to clearinghouses, and they set the rules. So these guys are literally the kingmakers now. Like, they are deciding the playing field. And like, the last thing I'll add is, I mean, JP Morgan is still the biggest financial institution in the world. I think it's a $400 billion company. So it's larger than all these exchanges combined. But there's something to be said about being able to set the rules. And that's all the details I was able to come up with.
Very good, man.
That's amazing, mate. That's a crazy business, man. I didn't know much about
business.
It all.
Actually, well, let me add one more thing. Talking about the business itself. This is from the Business Breakdown podcast. I highly recommend listening to it. Think about we're talking about when we were talking about Instacart and those thin margins in the grocery business. Let's just say that the exchange business are the opposite of thin margins, right? Like, when you're selling a license to your indice, that ain't costing you jack. So these guys are doing like 40-50% operating margin, 70-80% recurring revenue, because all these financial institutions, all these asset managers, all these banks, they're paying for this data and for these licenses. So these businesses are ridiculous. And the long-term growth of it is this: is global GDP going to increase? Despite everything that's happened, it is going to increase, and they're going to start adding other countries. Not investment advice. The absolute last thing I'll add is I'll probably send this photo to Rafa to show it, but all these companies have double, triple, quadrupled in the past decade to reflect in terms of market cap, to reflect how important they've become. So there's a TLDR in the exchange business, boys.
And the accessibility of investing as a behavior is just incredible for all of these guys too, right?
The participation that we're talking about, GDP growth, not only GDP growing, idiots like us on our phones are growing every day. So that is where we go. It's fascinating.
There was one other thing that we should have said, boys. Didn't Twitter just get a license? Get a license from the Rhode Island.
Yeah, you shared that in the group chat. One of you did. I'm trying to pull it up here.
There you go. Twitter X acquires required license to add crypto payments. So you'll be getting your payouts in Doge pretty soon, Trump.
There we go. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
We need you to talk about the you before you had combined in previous episodes the meme of trading on Twitter, because right now there's there's a level between it, right? You see something on Twitter, you're like, oh, maybe I'll buy based on this 10-second analysis I saw from a single tweet. Instant now, boys. Instant.
Yeah, I don't know if this is so it's a Rhode Island currency transmitter license, which is required to provide virtual asset related services on behalf of users. It will enable the social media platform to store, transfer, and exchange digital assets. Kind of crazy.
Sounds like NFTs.
And
Sounds
fast.
like some...
You know what I mean? Like, just ridiculous how fast this stuff gets done.
Unbelievable.
The everything app, boys.
There we go.
We're
All right,
there,
boys,
we're on the doorsteps.
Let's do one last quick topic, yeah? If you guys finish with that. TikTok music. We just kind of talked about it a little bit before, but I was looking it up when we were speaking earlier. So TikTok has already launched TikTok music in beta, and I think it's only available in Indonesia and Brazil, two of their biggest markets outside the US, obviously. And they're also going to launch it in Australia. It's currently in beta. But yeah, kind of an interesting move because we've talked about this on the show, like the discoverability of music on TikTok and people creating songs specifically for TikTok. Obviously, music has been a part of the DNA of TikTok since the beginning when it was like Musical.ly originally as well. So yeah, kind of an interesting move. I was looking up the percentage market share for everyone. So Spotify is 31% of the market. Apple Music is 15%. Amazon Music and Tencent Music are tied, or 13% each. YouTube
Amazon
Music.
What even is Amazon Music?
I think it's already when you've got Prime. I think you get Amazon Music, and all of us are probably paying for it and don't even realize. On their phone, I guess, probably.
Or on Alexa as well.
Yeah, it's probably just an app, but I've never used it myself, to be honest. And then YouTube Music 8%, but it's quite an interesting move for them because if you think about, like, you know, we talk about distribution here all the time.
What's the user difference?
Yeah, I mean, just to think, like, they've got that baked-in user base, and they already start. I think it could be quite interesting because I think they could. Yeah, go on.
TikTok has 1.7 billion
users,
monthly active users,
addicted to it as well.
Yeah,
right. So,
and Spotify's 500 million.
Let me introduce actually something related to the last topic. The digital assets in Twitter. We talked about removing a layer. This is exactly what's happening.
Exactly.
Boys. TikTok we've covered here, is the ultimate top of funnel for the music business. It's the kingmaker. It's the stock exchange. If stock exchange, if exchanges are the kingmakers of the finance industry now, TikTok is a kingmaker of the music industry because there's no faster way to get a hit than to get it go viral on TikTok. And this is a huge move. It's a problem move. It's quite frankly a problem for Spotify.
Well, I don't know if we ever got this answer. You know, we had Dan Runcie on.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if we got like a succinct answer to this, but the way in which TikTok is able to use music, or the way it, like, I don't know if they've negotiated stuff.
Any song
like if you go on Instagram and try and look for a song, it's like there's nothing on there. It's like the most odd selection of probably like the 2 labels that they've negotiated deals with. You go on TikTok, there's like 15 versions of every song remixed by, you know, people that are on the platform, this cut, that edit, this, that. It's just like moving at an entirely different speed. Like the network activity on TikTok is, I'd like to hear a sailor breakdown on that, man. It's just like talk about cyber hornets, man. That's what that thing is.
Well, Jack, you said, because the piece I was reading about this, this was in end of July, so they basically said they just renegotiated and expanded licensing agreement with Warner Music as it looks to grow its music content library. So I think we talked about this before. I think it was the smartest thing, even if they're like massively overpaying for that. It's like how do you race to get network effect? You ride on top of these assets that already have velocity. If you're on Instagram and the virality of your post is dependent on you creating something that resonates versus being able to tag yourself into this thing that is already a juggernaut, like whatever song is going viral at the time. In my mind, that's the whole TikTok thesis in one, is like that focus that they put on making music integrated into that platform at every level is what catapulted it to where it is.
Definitely. Well, that's the DNA of what was the TikTok precursor?
Musically,
yeah. It's like you're literally lip syncing music, and I mean, Jack always talks about you're riding the existing culture. You're exciting already the most music is the most memeable thing ever, right? It's like when a catchy tune gets hold of a population. The one thing I want to add, Bilal, was did you mention not only are they doing a streaming service, they've already looked at creating an AR function, which is like artists and repertoire. Is that what it means in the record industry? So like A&R? Basically representation. Like they're cutting out everyone, or they can, and they're looking at it, right? It's like TikTok's like, wait, what's the purpose of a record label, right? In the 90s, you printed the physical CDs for people, you did marketing CDs, for the artist, and you had the fan communication. Well, it's all social, direct nowadays. Yeah, everything's direct now. A single artist can do all of that by themselves. So the record labels have to earn their keep, right? That's always been the article, or especially recently, is like, or record labels like even earning their keep. Like if they're forcing people to go viral on TikTok, like their own artists, like what's the purpose of them? So TikTok's just like, wait a second, like you're right. So why don't we just do the A&R, because we're the ones that can put the thumb on the scale, right? And we can actually make you go viral. So anyways, this doesn't change the fact that TikTok should be banned, but
no, but just the last thing I'll say on it is I think it's a really strong move. I think it's a really impressive thing. Like, it makes a lot of sense for them to do it. I will say the closest analog here is like YouTube Music. It says 8% market share, which I don't know if you guys ever used it. I'd, again, pay for YouTube Premium, get YouTube for free, but don't use it.
Pumping YouTube Music.
No, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying here that I'm paying for this.
Employer.
But YouTube Music is at a different platform than YouTube. It's got just songs on it.
Yeah, I think it's basically they're all competitors to Spotify. Like you get the same library of music.
I just put the video playlist on and stick it in the background.
Yeah, I do that more than I use YouTube Music. And I guess the point here is kind of the bear case on TikTok Music is that just because people are listening to music on one platform doesn't necessarily mean they're making that their primary place to listen to music.
And if they're addicted to TikTok, they're going to be doing that instead of going and listening to a whole song. Exactly. Right? They've already fried themselves beyond the ability to listen to something for 3 minutes.
I think they could do a better job of it, though, to be honest.
YouTube pays these record labels more than anyone else. They pay so much money. Wait, Bilal, you know this, right? He's like, you told us that every music video has the option, basically,
content
just
ID,
yeah, just content ID, like we'll pay you. Just like give us the right to play the music, right?
And also, just if you think, obviously TikTok is massive for this, but obviously YouTube video, like the biggest YouTube videos are music videos, like the old, there's like videos that people playing on repeat and stuff like that. So to me, there was no reason YouTube shouldn't have been a much bigger player in this. And they, in my opinion, I don't want to say messed up, but like they should have a bigger share of this. The same way I think they should have a bigger share of cloud. And I think it's bad execution, essentially. Like they spread themselves pretty thin. And with YouTube Music, like why shouldn't everyone just be using YouTube Music if lots of people already use it for music? But the reason is because Spotify has a better experience and they had a head start in creating something. Apple has 15% market share, and that is because they have a pretty like comparable product. It's very similar to Spotify, but it's a little bit different. Like they've got a few different things. They've got like the high fidelity stuff I think they had, and they did some exclusive stuff with artists. Remember when like Kanye or someone would drop it on Apple Music for 1 week first? And that's again like an old school like tactic in media, right? Like you go on HBO first and then it goes everywhere else or whatever. And so I think that is what I think TikTok probably has a better chance at doing it, because I think they execute incredibly well, and the algorithmic nature of their algorithm being so powerful and the integration of the videos and music, like that gives them a massive shot. So if I was predicting, which I don't tend to do, but if I was here, I would say a year or two from now, they would have 5-10% share at least in the US, but I don't think it's taken over Spotify, because I think Spotify is just like, they've established themselves as the music go-to place, but who knows? I mean, it'll be interesting to see, but I think it's cool they're doing this. Anything else on that, boys? I thought it was worth us bringing up because kind of in our realm.
One other thing that I didn't bring up is that there is a little like TikTok style discovery product or mini product inside Spotify, which is really good too.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't even know how to navigate to it.
I think we talked about this. They changed it to more video. Yeah, they went feed-ish, right? So they could feed you not just music.
I think it's like A/B test or something, because sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. But I found a few quality tracks through that.
Nice.
For sure.
Yeah, you always find, Jack will find these songs that's got like 12,000 views on YouTube, and it's an absolute banger. It's like, I don't know how you find those, but yeah.
Mate, it's not me. It's a freaking algorithm just feeding it back to me.
It knows you. It knows you. It knows you. Why don't we finish with this, guys? Rip to Bob Barker, longtime host of The Price is Right. We got a lot of comments last week. People like these end of session bants about growing up. Bilal mentioned this. So while we throw this out, I used to watch The Price is Right a ton growing up. It was like part of my after school, immigrant, refugee parents. They're just like, throw this kid in front of TV. Let's get him cultured. What's up there? What's on the tube? And you got The Price is Right. So what was post school watching circa grade 3 or 4? I'll tell you right now.
Grade 3, 4. That's young.
Okay, here we go.
7,
8 or 9,
maybe? Yeah, 8, 9.
So I'll hit you quickly. When Trung Stunner rolled home, 3 to 4 o'clock.
9-year-old Trung Stunner, shades on.
Savage combo. The Simpsons followed by The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Nice,
there we go.
Nice.
That was 100%. I was going to say Fresh Prince.
I got one for you. Ready, steady, cook, and countdown.
Countdown.
Wait, is this British?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Trung, you've never seen Countdown, right?
No, you guys have.
Was it Carol Vorderman?
Wait, what's Countdown? What is it?
Wait, we gotta play it, man.
It's like, is that the anagram one? Do they give them the?
Yeah, they'll give
letters?
you like different letters, and you got to come up with words. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, I'll have a vowel, please, Carol. I'll have a consonant, another vowel.
And her mental math was incredible. She was
class.
So
and they would
good.
do a number round where they give you a number, and you'd pick 6 numbers, and you have to get there through the numbers that you drew randomly. You'd have to produce the result on the board. Great show.
Wait.
We need. I'm gonna YouTube clip it. And Bilal, what was yours?
Well, no, I don't know if it was age 9 though, but yeah, for me, Fresh Prince every day. But there was like a change from in the UK where you go from the age of watching Nickelodeon, where you got like Rugrats, Hey Arnold, like cartoons, and then you get to the older stuff where you're watching like Fresh Prince. And so there was a TV channel. Was it called Trouble? I think. Do you remember this, Jack?
I think so. Yeah.
Trouble. It was a UK like TV channel, and they had Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Moesha. Remember Kenan and Kel was on.
Brandy, Moesha, right?
Brandy, yeah. She was a legend as well.
Dude, we need to talk about how much fan service our British listeners get.
Oh, like, yeah.
Jack, I'll drop these like pop culture references. I don't even know what Gainsey is. Who is Gainsey? Wait, you guys dropped so many pop culture references from the UK. I have no idea. I haven't heard a single Gainsey song in my life.
Stormzy.
Gainsey's the Twitter guy, man. He's the guy on Twitter talking about crypto, I think.
Yeah, you guys are dropping.
I was cracking so much that my camera just fell. But no, and I will say, Trung, there was also, there was a time where like Sister Sister was the Nickelodeon. It was the transition from watching Rugrats, Hey Arnold to like TV shows. Sister Sister, Sabrina, Teenage Witch with your boy Salem. You remember him?
Oh,
Salem?
yeah, she was. And what's her name? Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh, yeah. Woo! Yeah, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy. I never got into that. But
actually, you want to know? Let me throw one more out there. Did you guys ever do X-Files?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. I never got into it fully, but a little bit. My brother watched
scary,
it.
Dude. Yeah. Did you guys ever do Red Shoe Diaries? I didn't do that shit.
No, I never watched that. What about Are You Afraid of the Dark? Was that a show that made it there?
Yeah, they had that.
That was also quite young. But no, I would. Kenan and Kel, though. That was classic.
Mysteries, the scariest show in the history of mankind. Those reenactments, dude, and that song at the beginning, and the host. Dude, I was watching Unsolved Mysteries in my late 20s, and that shit, I couldn't sleep, man.
Is this when you be reading Goosebumps? Do you remember those books?
Yeah,
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
They were when you
books?
touched the cover and it had like a
absolute class.
That was pretty incredible, man. Yeah, that was
Memory Lane, man. Memory Lane.
That was a good. No, but for me it was 100% Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, man. Every day, 4 o'clock, and then Friends came on at 5.
Uncle Phil.
Uncle Phil, yeah, and Jazzy Jeff, we get thrown out the door.
Always thrown out the door.
That was my favorite, man. All right, beautiful way to cover it off, boys. All right, let's call it here. Thanks for being everyone. We'll see you next week.
Amazing.
Peace.
Cheers.